Let's move on to a couple of key SAC games. The first one will be your highlight zone game of the week. I imagine you guys are going to have tons of coverage of this one. Dwenger, Snider, the SAC championship, essentially in many ways coming down to this game. What do you see as the biggest keys on Friday night as the Saints battle the Panthers in what should be another classic between these two?
I think it's up front for the Snider offensive line versus that Dwenger defensive line. I think last Friday, just very surprising the way Dwenger just dominated Carroll on both sides of the ball in the trenches, but in particular in that defense. And they were just really able to disrupt everything that Carroll was able to do. If you do not get pressure on Snider with your front four, then you are going to let them pick you apart. And I think Northside tried to blitz them, and Snider just destroyed them. I mean, just straight up just destroyed them. You have to get pressure over your front four. You have to dominate up front. You cannot bring extra guys because you're leaving guys open and leaving massive swaths of that field open for their playmakers to get and be open, and they just tore Northside up Friday. So Dwenger's key is that defensive front for them and to get a push.
On the flip side of that, Snider's defense versus Dwenger's offense, I think we've seen Dwenger's offense improve week in and week out. Specifically, I think the passing game has improved to where they would throw when they had to. Now they can throw to move the ball down the field. The receivers are making great plays. The throws are there on time, and they're getting protection on the quarterback to be able to move the ball in the air, as well as Amon Clark on the ground. Yeah,
Blake Bishop's played tremendously well. He's improved from that first week. He had some down weeks, early in the season, but he's been on. Guys like Berghoff and Fetterspiel are just, they're the traditional big, tall guys that aren't overwhelmingly athletic for Dwenger, but they're great fundamentally, and they put themselves in position to catch balls, and they're getting downfield and making some great catches. Last week we saw it against Carroll. And if they can do it again against Snider, against a secondary that is good, but I don't think has been tested that much, that I think, maybe they can have a couple big plays on Friday. But would not be surprised at all if Dwenger is that team that slows that offense down. I think Carroll did to a certain extent, but a lot of it was Snider shooting themselves in the foot. I could envision Snider just not being able to run all over the place like they usually do on Friday.
Dwenger has a really good front seven. They don't have like a superstar out there, but they get the ball, they get it done. They play very sound, like we expect Dwenger teams to, and I think an underrated unit, even if there is not one or two superstars up there up front.
Yeah, I mentioned it Friday. It's like Dwenger, you watch him warm up, the most physically unimposing 6-1 team in the state. I mean, you look at him and you're like, okay, nothing great, nothing phenomenal, right. But that coaching staff has done a tremendous job with this group. It is not an overly athletic group, but it's a fundamentally sound, focused group, as all Dwenger and as all Dwenger teams are. They've had their off the field things, with Coach Schwarzkopf and some other coaches and stuff like that, and Coach Tone, the freshman coach, and they've rallied. I mean, you go either two ways. Either you lose everybody and it just goes downhill, or you band together and have a great season. And Dwenger's on that course, 6-1. Even if they lose on Friday, they're a good threat to go deep in 4A playoffs.
On the flip side, Snider, their defensive line, they have a stud. He's only a sophomore, but Lawrence Johnson, he's a guy, I don't know how much their offensive line has been tested, but he is a guy that is going to test them on Friday night, as is that Snider defensive line as a unit.
Yeah, Lawrence Johnson, not only is he quick and fast and great with his hands, and he's physical. He does not shy away from contact at all. Just a sophomore. Phenomenal around the edge. And that's a great point. I think that's a great focus for the Bishop Dwenger offense, is being able to contain him around the edge, because when they played Carroll, like you mentioned, Pashoni was able to sit back there and take his time. Are they going to be able to do that against Snider? And I'm not sure. I think that's one of the keys as well Friday. But Lawrence Johnson's just a phenomenal athlete.
I think he's the next guy we're going to be talking a lot about when we talk about
definitely.
D1 recruits in the area. Only a sophomore. I think he's going to be the next generation of those guys that's going to be a stud on the next level. Final question: what is going to turn the table in that game on Friday? What is like the real, the crux of this game, if you will?
Well, I think, Dwenger probably has a less margin for error than Snider does. They need to be clean, and I think if there's any team in this area that you can trust to have a clean game, limit the turnovers, limit the penalties, it is Dwenger. And I think we talked a little bit about some other teams earlier. I don't envision some particular teams being able to do that against Snider, because they shoot themselves in the foot a lot. And Dwenger won't. Dwenger won't do that. So you need to play a clean game. You need to play a smart game. And you need to maximize your opportunities, and Dwenger is a team that can do that.